The dawn light shines through the green pine canopy, covering the deserted road in the British Columbia forest with a warm and pure yellow color. On the clean asphalt road, the black police car moved slowly between two rows of tall pine trees, leaves rustling in the gentle breeze. Officer David Harris was driving, with his partner Mark Turner beside him, both on a morning patrol shift in early spring. The light reflected through the windshield, casting shadows of two people against the deep green forest floor, where the shimmering sunlight reflected off the pine leaves. The chirping of birds spread far and wide, mixed with the smell of pine resin and damp grass, making the peaceful scene like a vivid picture of nature. David smiled, saying that the weather was nice today, hoping they wouldn't encounter any problems during their patrol. But as he reached the next corner, he suddenly slowed down, squinting ahead to where a large brown figure stood still. By the roadside, a giant brown grizzly bear was lying with its head down, its body heavy as if exhausted after a long, tiring journey. Its fur was matted and dusty, the sunlight reflecting off its golden gray fur and massive shoulders. An old car tire was stuck tightly around its neck, leaving deep marks around its neck, leaving red and swollen skin. David immediately braked, a slight screech, the flashing red and blue lights reflecting off the dewy tree trunks. The two watched through the glass. The bear was not ferocious, just breathing heavily, its cloudy eyes filled with pain and despair. It raised its head to look towards the car, clear tears falling down, reflecting and sparkling in the pure golden sunlight. A small sound came from its throat, part groan, part silent cry for help, echoing through the forest. David gripped the wheel tightly, his heart pounding, feeling the helplessness of the massive creature. Mark raised his phone and took a few pictures, his hand shaking slightly in the bright golden moonlight. The spring wind blew through, carrying the scent of pine resin and the sound of falling leaves, creating a quiet space that was heartbreaking. The two looked at each other, their eyes filled with pity and fear, knowing that the bear needed help right now. In the shimmering sunlight, the image of the giant animal bowing its head made the whole forest suddenly become strangely quiet. Mark held the walkie-talkie, his voice trembling slightly as he reported to the ranger station about the trapped bear situation that needed rescue. A voice answered over the loudspeaker, telling them to not leave the vehicle, keep a safe distance and wait for the rangers to come and assist. David nodded, turned off the siren to avoid scaring the wild creature, then stared out at the green forest ahead. The bear moved slowly, its neck shaking painfully, the tires squeezing it, making its breathing heavier and more labored. The drops of saliva fell on the bright road, reflecting the sunlight and sparkling like crystal. Mark bowed his head slightly, his eyes silent, his heart ached at the sight that was so heartbreaking. David tried to keep calm, the light reflecting off his face clearly in the dim cabin. They could only sit still, listening to the sound of the wind, the sound of the forest and the heavy breathing coming from that huge creature. In the distance, a few birds swooped down and then flapped their wings and flew up again, the sunlight sparkling as they flew. The two waited in silence, the seconds stretching out between the quiet forest and the bright noon light. Nearly 30 minutes later, the sound of an engine echoed in the distance, and a forest green pickup truck appeared in the middle of the sunny road. Two rangers, Lucas Brown and Ella Morgan, stepped down, carrying tranquilizer guns and specialized medical kits. The light reflecting off the Canadian Ranger logo makes the entire forest appear brighter in crystal clear green. Lucas moved closer, got a closer look at the bear and realized it may have gotten stuck in a tire from a landfill near Silver Creek. The bear looked at them, growling weakly, its eyes cloudy but still shining with a faint hope. They agreed on a plan. Lucas prepared the anesthetic gun, and Ella prepared the medicine and medical gloves. A small whoosh sound rang out, the arrow flew away, the metallic light flashed in the brilliant forest space. The needle hit its mark, the bear was startled and slowly fell down on the soft grass covered in warm yellow sunlight. The wind stopped, the space was so quiet that only the steady breathing of the unconscious animal could be heard. 4 people walked forward, their shadows long on the bright road, reflecting the blue light of the police car behind. Ella gently placed a cloth around the bear's neck to protect the injured skin before cutting away the tire. Lucas turned on the hand mower, the steel blade glinting in the sunlight, emitting a short whistling sound that echoed throughout the forest. Rubber dust and tiny sparks flew up, the glittering light reflecting off the gently trembling green pine needles. After 15 tense minutes, the rubber finally gave way, the heavy tire falling to the ground with a dull thud. The two policemen and Lucas lifted it off the bear's neck, their breathing heavy, their foreheads beaded with sweat. When the skin below the neck was exposed, they were shocked to see a deep, red, bloody wound oozing with painful yellow pus. Ella opened the medical bag, cleaned the wound with antiseptic solution, the smell of medicine spread in the forest wind. The light reflected off the medicine bottle in her hand, glittering like a streak of silver in the bright yellow sunlight. Lucas gently wiped away the mud with a cotton swab and carefully bandaged the bear's neck. The pure white ribbon stood out against the shaggy brown fur, reflecting the light clearly from the midday sun. David looked at that scene, his eyes were silent, his heart was filled with pity and admiration. Mark bent down to help, his hand shaking slightly as it touched the thick, soft fur still warm with breath. They gave it a shot of stimulant, then backed away, leaving the animal to rest in the peaceful light of the forest. The wind blew, the forest leaves trembled gently, the light shimmered as if to celebrate a liberation that had just happened. The four of them stood around, silently watching the massive creature recover, in a quiet and benevolent atmosphere. A few minutes passed, the bear's body trembled slightly, its eyelids moved and slowly opened in the bright light. It took a deep breath, its head lifted slightly, its black eyes reflecting the sunlight between the green leaves. The white bandage wrapped around its neck stood out against its golden-brown fur, reflecting the pure noon light. It struggled to stand up, shaking its whole body, making the dust from the sun fly like golden particles of light dancing around. Two cars parked nearby reflected their red and blue flashing lights off the animal's wet, shiny skin. The bear looked towards the four people standing in the distance, its eyes peaceful, gentle, containing silent gratitude. It let out a low cry, the sound reverberated far and wide through the forest, sounding like a sincere thank you to humans. The spring breeze blew gently, the scent of the forest spread, and golden light danced on the tree trunks covered with soft green moss. The bear turned its head and slowly walked towards the forest, its gait steady, its neck light and free. The light passed through the leaves, shining on its back, creating a brilliant golden strip in the pure air. The four people stood still, no one said anything, just watching the large figure gradually disappear into the vast forest. Against the blue sky, a flock of birds flew by, reflecting silvery white, carrying the serenity of nature. The noon sun poured down on the road, the pine leaves reflected the shimmering light like gold throughout the quiet space. Lucas turned back to look at the two policemen, smiling slightly, the sunlight shining through the tree canopy reflecting on his sweaty face. David returned the smile, his eyes shining with the simple happiness he had just experienced in the deep forest. They shook hands, filled with pride knowing they had done the right thing for nature. The four men gathered up their tools, put the tire in the back of the truck, and closed the lid in the bright afternoon light. The two cars rolled slowly on the leafy forest road, light shining through the bright windows. The sound of the engine mixed with the sound of the wind blowing, echoed gently in the cool and peaceful green space. David looked back at the forest one last time, where shimmering light still filtered through the green leaves. The spring sunlight covers the road, reflecting through the trees and leaves, closing the story of compassion and rebirth.